Welcome to The Mortgage Voice with Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry. Each week on this program, Jeff and his guests share their expertise, personal anecdotes, and the latest industry news to keep you in the loop. Now, to provide you with insight and help you navigate the consistently changing world of real estate lending, here is your host for The Mortgage Voice, Jeff Barton.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry. 888-713-2929, our telephone number here at the studio. If you give us a call, we can help you with questions that you're going to have, or you've already answered, but poorly. That's what we can do here on the show. We try to help you with your real estate issues, certainly your mortgage issues, anything that can further along your need, desire, want to be able to get a piece of property. Lots happening in the news. Things change in our economy, things change in the mortgage market quickly. It's the volatility that is a hallmark of the current presidential, administration. Now, I say that, of course, it's not to blame anybody. It's just the way it is during this last 2.5 years. We had 8 years of steady, right, where we could count on the Fed keeping rates low, at least short-term interest rates, and that in turn also buying mortgage-backed securities as well as the Treasury and what they called quantum easing, and that kept rates really low. I mean, what we were dealing with then was historically low rates. We never really saw rates at 3.25%, 3.5%, FHA even almost down to 2.99%, which is unheard of. That was then. What are we dealing with now? We're dealing with more of a normal market, but at the same time with the volatility of what's going on in China, the administration's troubles, the things that they're having to deal with, whether it's impeach, not impeach. I don't have a dog in the fight, just to let you know. I've heard complaints about my political leanings. I have some, but not many, especially when it comes to the economy, where I think there are so many factors at play here. It is very difficult to blame or give credit to more than one individual, or to one individual rather. It's really. It's in play. It's always in play. And as I said, the volatility is based on what's going on in China, what's going on down in Mexico, whether we have that deal, whether we don't have that deal, what's happening in South America, what's happening to GM. I saw an interview on Axios. I don't know if anybody's ever heard. You heard of Axios, Daryl?
Not right off head, no, I don't know.
Okay, so Axios is like I guess it's a news magazine show that they have on HBO. So yes, I get HBO. I'm one of the.
Oh, that's why I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm sure.
One of those pay channels.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. I'm showing my elitist underpinnings. Anyway, so I was watching it, and the head of GM, and she is a very smart person, but so political it hurts, right? Direct question, obfuscate, obfuscate, obfuscate. Direct question, be vague, don't tell, put some political correctness. So, yeah.
I did watch George Stephanopoulos in his 30 hours with
President Trump?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was enlightening.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, Stephanopoulos, and we'll get back to the head of GM in a second. He worked for Clinton, right? He was his press secretary.
He was his campaign manager, become press secretary, yes.
Right, exactly. So there are some, left leanings. Obviously, he works for what? CNN? Is that who he works for?
ABC.
ABC. Okay, ABC owns CNN, don't they? Or isn't it something like that?
Disney owns ABC.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'm not sure. CNN may be
They
still part
sold
of,
to somebody, didn't they? I thought they did.
I think so.
I thought Ted Turner sold that whole thing to somebody. I'm not really sure. Anyway, I apologize for the interlude here, but
that's okay.
We're trying to get a handle on what's going on.
Who works for who?
Who works for who? The administration, the Trump interview with Stephanopoulos, and he was lording over him. What was that all about?
It was a little cuckoo, I mean, I think he was trying to warm him up to get him to be comfortable.
I saw a segment, 4 or 5 questions, just the whole gotcha TV show that they like to put on, where he was standing over the president who's sitting at the desk, the presidential desk.
Right, in the Oval Office.
In the Oval Office, right. And I was like, what is this? This is so bizarre looking, just from a television standpoint, because they weren't on the same plane. It was like one guy was up, one guy was down. It was weird.
The thing that baffled me was you had two human beings talking about the same document that they both had read and coming up with two different answers.
Well, isn't that the way it is in Washington? Yeah. Geez, I mean, okay, so let's get back to GM. So the questions to her in the interview were the plants you shuttered. Why? 14 plants in the U.S., shipping jobs overseas when you got the $50 billion bailout. That is basically what the question was. She answered, well, we're all going electric. We've got to make a transition, and we're going to open one of the plants again in 2020. So take that for what it is. But what it tells you is that the economy is not necessarily based on what we think it is based on or what is reported in the news. GM has a 100-year plan, 50-year plan, 25-year plan, and the next 10-minute plan. All of these things trying to ensure that the company stays solvent and forward-thinking, that the people who have jobs can continue to keep jobs, and if we can make them cheaper here, i.e. electric cars. And I didn't know this. Did you know that GE is no longer making compact or passenger cars?
GM?
That's not GE. GM. Yes, GM.
If they made that transition, they did it very quietly and nobody noticed.
Well, they don't make sedans anymore. They make SUVs, they make trucks, they make crossovers, but they don't make any other car.
Well, I think we would have discovered that because all those other cars would have been sitting around, because that's the only thing people are buying are the ones that you mentioned.
Yes, that's exactly right. Now, Ford did the same thing. There is a transition from, carbon-based or gasoline cars to electric cars. And I say, and she said it too, within the next 10 years, maybe even 5 years, we're going to get self-driving cars, and they're mostly going to be electric cars. And this is the transition worldwide in automotive design as well as production.
An electric car almost ran me over yesterday because I didn't hear it coming.
Well, no, you don't. Oh, quick story. So
SBD.
Exactly, silent but deadly. Exactly. Used to refer to something else, but cars that sneak up on you. So the economy. The economy, what is it doing now? That's GM's approach, long-term, short-term, to what's happening. They're going to lay off people even though they got the bailout, okay? I don't care. What I want to do is find out what's happening today so that I can tell my borrower who is looking at buying a house that they're going to be employed next week. Where are they working? I don't know. Went to the supermarket, and these are all over the place. You will see that you are now checking out your own groceries, right? Have you been to these places?
Everywhere.
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 So I approached the person at Ralph's today, and I said, you know what? You are training your obsolescence. And very sweet person said, oh, I don't think so. I think this is, we're just here to help you. I say, look around. How many tellers do you see anymore? And there were no tellers. There were only these checkout machines. And this is over in the San Fernando Valley. This is a very populous and they're educating consumers to do the work that they used to have to pay for.
Rented a truck yesterday.
Right.
Online.
Right.
U-Haul truck.
Right.
I had two choices. It said you could either sign in on this mobile device when you pick up your truck and do it on your cell phone when you get here, or you could stand in a long line at the counter.
Right.
And we have no idea how long it'll take.
Right. Yeah. Guess what they're doing?
Definitely a discrimination and discouraging me from standing in line and talking to a human being.
Well, anybody over 50 wants to stand in a line. Anybody under 40 does not. They just want to do it on their app and get the heck out.
I don't want to give my driver's license to a machine. I really don't.
It's the same thing. I went yesterday to Safelite Auto right over here in the valley. And when the person finished replacing after a rock smashed me on the freeway, I stood there and he said, can I have your credit card? I said, okay. And he whips out a cell phone. I said, whose cell phone is that? He goes, that's my cell phone. I go, why do I want to give you my credit card information on your cell phone? And he said, it's the company's cell phone. I said, again, why do I want to give you my credit? That's the only way that it's done. It's all mobile. It's all through an app, and you have zero control over what's happening. So when we talk about the economy, when we talk about jobs, this is what we're talking about. That's why in the next segment that I share with you, we're going to talk about why the economy is faltering today. and why interest rates are going down and why the option for you as a buyer is a good one now for all those same reasons. Anyway, where are we in the time? We're all good? Okay, I'm Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to The Mortgage Voice with Jeff Barton. We'll be right back with more in just a moment. For more information on today's topic, email Jeff Barton at info@malibufunding.net. Now, back to The Mortgage Voice with your host, Jeff Barton.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry, 888-713-2929, our telephone number here at the studio. Pick up the phone, give us a call, email us, info@malibufunding.net. You can certainly watch the show on YouTube or at KCAA, KMET when the show airs on the weekends. We're also at K-Tahoe, and hello to all our fine listeners up in Tahoe. Give us a call anytime for answers to mortgage questions or real estate questions. There are so many opportunities in the marketplace, and they're going to increase because rates have really, gone down. And we talked about the economy in an earlier segment, and will again soon. But I wanted to bring Nina Penny back on. Nina, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, there was a great article today. Nina Penny, of course, is our resident expert in reverse mortgages. Her credentials aside, years of experience in the business, helping people to try to figure out their retirement. This is one of the vehicles that gets used. Discuss a little bit about this USA article coming out really strongly against reverse mortgages.
Yes, it was the talk of the town, Jeff,
Yep.
that article. And, it brought to attention once again a side of reverse mortgages that, really we try and battle off. It's an ongoing battle to defend the product. Once again, we find ourselves in that situation. It was written about the number of foreclosures in Arizona. We talked about the Arizona Sun City and the high volume of foreclosures. And there has been a lot of changes, safeguards put in place over the last several years. But in certain areas where folks might have been 62, maybe 10 years ago or older, a lot of those people have passed. And when they pass, sometimes the family, doesn't want to deal with the house. Sometimes they find that they may be upside down if the parents lived a long time.
Right.
And they just tell the bank, hey, keep it. It's yours. And so the bank is forced to do foreclosure then.
Right.
And that's a lot of it, is that from that period of time in Sun City, back in the 2000s when there was really very little regulations on reverse mortgages, there was a lot of them done in that specific area.
Mm-hmm.
And, the houses were not very expensive, or it's a lower income, and so they choose their own demographics from that. And that is really the culprit of that article.
Yeah, they talked about foreclosure as if the bank is out front of the house waiting to foreclose with, blood dripping off their fangs, and that this is the biggest opportunity, and that somehow there's some fast-talking, slick mortgage broker who talked the person into it, when that is not the case at all with reverse mortgages in today's market.
That's correct. And, a lot of it is that the percentage of folks who go into foreclosure while they have a reverse mortgage is primarily just because maybe they didn't pay their taxes. And even then, that would have to have gone on for a while, because a lot of times the lender will try and work out something with the borrowers to get those taxes paid. But a good percentage of the foreclosures are from the death.
Yeah, I think the problem with an article like this, it doesn't represent the vast majority of reverse mortgages that are helping people in their retirement stay in their home and live at a level that they had been living when they actually had a job and we didn't need the reverse mortgages. And so I think,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think in a good economy, it's really not a problem because the property value ascends, right? It goes up. But in a bad economy,
Sure.
even if, the house is underwater, you can still stay in the house. And that, to me,
Absolutely.
says that you are protected for the life, and so is your surviving spouse.
Yes. And, you know, a thing that really, you know, they want to talk about, you know, if somebody got a good chunk of change
Yep.
from their reverse mortgage, they want to talk about all the good that it did for that time.
Right.
But say it was a really long time, and, you know, maybe the housing market is not recovering as great as it did, and they are upside down. You know, they're not going to the heirs to collect the money. You know, those are the misconceptions. But those houses end up in foreclosure.
Yeah, I think that, one, the USA article really harkens back to times that have gone away and doesn't really explain, at least in the article I read about the article that was written, it said that it missed the whole point of the regulations put in place even as 2014, 2017, that this is ongoing in the protection of the consumer as going forward. This isn't, as you said, a problem whereby people are just getting foreclosed on because they missed a payment. No, there is a big, long process if, in fact, you miss a lot of payments or don't pay your taxes or for any number of other reasons. There are safeguards in place to help the borrower not only get back to where they were in terms of the reverse mortgage, but understand the responsibilities within it through the counseling that has been enhanced at the forefront of what this is, which is a great product.
And if you don't mind, I'd like to chime in on just one of the safeguards that has been put in place that I think would tell the real story about the product.
Okay.
Back, I would say about maybe 9 years ago, and then before then, it used to be if I was younger than my spouse could say, I'm going to do a reverse mortgage, I'm just going to leave my wife off of the loan.
Right.
And they did it. And people did that day in and day out. So my spouse was on the reverse mortgage, I was not. We were advised, or should have been advised that when my husband passes, that loan is due. But you know what? We wanted the money, and so everybody was on board with it. And you know what? My husband passes away, and guess what? The loan is due now.
Right.
And under those terms, I would have to leave the home.
Right. That's right.
There's a safeguard put in place by HUD that all those people were grandfathered in. That's protection of the seniors.
Right, and when did that come about,
program.
Nina?
Mm-hmm.
When did that come about?
That safeguard?
Yes.
I want to say, I think that came in play in 2014 or
That's what I think, too. Yeah. It's either 14 or 17, but yes, so that the guarantee, even if they were left off the loan, says that they can stay in the house, right? That they're not going to get kicked out.
Absolutely.
That reverse mortgage remains for the surviving spouse, even though they're not on the loan.
Yes. But nowadays it's different. Today, since 2014, you know what? The numbers are based on the younger spouse. So if my spouse is 65 and I'm 60, guess what? We can do a reverse mortgage, but we're going to base it on my age, and I'm on the loan.
Right. Okay.
We'll get less money, but we have that safeguard.
No, that's good. Even if the spouse isn't 62.
Correct.
Right.
And only one borrower has to be 62.
Right.
So if my husband is 65 and I'm 60, we get the reverse. They're just based off of my age.
Right.
And that's it.
No, that's an excellent point. And I think protections of the seniors, the program itself allows a lot of flexibility in both purchase and also cash out, as well as limiting or eliminating your monthly payment, which I think, obviously for a lot of people who are on fixed incomes and they want to stay in their house. Tell us quickly, we have about a minute left, the taxes and the insurance. The payments have to be made in order to maintain integrity of the loan, right?
Correct. A reverse mortgage can do a lot of things for you, but usually you have to pay your taxes and insurance on your own. And, of course, on any loan and any financing, if you don't pay your taxes, you risk foreclosure. A reverse mortgage is the same. You have to keep current on your taxes and insurance and homeowners. HOA.
Hey, Nina, could you shout out your phone number for people with additional questions who may want to give you a call?
Absolutely. Feel free. 480-635-2410. And if you'd like to find the response from the National Reverse Mortgage Lenders Association, just go to www.nrmla.org, and you will see the response by Mr. Bell, who's the president.
Nina, thank you very much for coming on. I wanted to get you on because this was a hot topic, and we need to dispel some of the worst fears in the public by getting in more information to them. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks. Anytime. Give me a buzz if anyone has any questions.
Thank you very much. That's Nina Penny, Reverse Mortgage Specialist. I'm Jeff Barton, your host and voice in the mortgage industry, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to The Mortgage Voice with Jeff Barton. We'll be right back with more in just a moment. For more information on today's topic, email Jeff Barton at info@malibufunding.net. Now, back to The Mortgage Voice with your host, Jeff Barton.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry, 888-713-2929, our telephone number. Pick up the phone, give us a call. We can help you with any questions you might have, anything you want to say about what's going on in your life when it comes to buying and selling real estate. Certainly, if it's about mortgage interest rates, smoking, by the way, and should remain that way for the rest of the buying season this summer. And property values are remaining steady, although in some markets they are going up rather quickly. But in most of Southern California, they have remained at the 2 to 3% rise on an annual basis for the last 3-4 months. So that bodes well for anybody out there who's looking for a home, hasn't found a home, but needs to do that. Now, let's say you bought that home and you bought a fixer or something that needs help or something that would, be enhanced by a professional who looked at it and said, you know what, you might want to do X, Y, and Z. With us once again, in order to answer some of those questions, is Brendan McBreen, a designer as well as a expert in the field, I would say, of making something bad look something great. Brendan, how are you?
I'm good, Jeff. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. Thank you very much. I know we try to have you on in the spring. We try to get you to, explain maybe some of the things that you're working on, some of the ways that you can help a homeowner make their house better, especially if it's in the fix-up variety. Give us some example of some of the things that you're currently working on or that you might suggest in a situation like that.
Well, I do have a lot of work in the Los Angeles area, and a lot of it is people who've bought, older fixer homes in, areas like Venice, which is a huge turnover and a huge market and really expensive real estate. But basically people are buying these tired houses, and we're just trying to figure out the best path to get the most kind of bang for the buck, doing the least amount of work, possible.
Right. And when you look at a house, because a lot of people in our listening audience out in San Bernardino and Riverside, especially in Riverside, where I've spent some good deal of time, there are a lot of old Spanish-style houses, which I absolutely love.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, they're really fantastic. And so if you're looking at a house kind of like that, do you look at the specifics of the bones, they call it, or do you look at the cosmetic when you're looking at the house? Give us your idea and opinion on that.
Well, I think if you've got a Spanish house, it's pretty smart to kind of stick with the intrinsic architecture on the property.
Right.
I think there's lots of ways you can freshen those places up so they still feel current and new, but still respectful to the architecture. The last thing you want to do if you're fortunate enough to find a nice old Spanish house is to just try to make it something it isn't.
Right. No, I agree with that completely, because I've seen the renovations that do things like that, and it's horrible.
Yeah, no, it's bad. And, fortunately, in the case of those types of homes, you can get away with, it's usually the bathrooms and the kitchens that need the, most help.
Right.
And, there's really great resources at, tiles and things like that at places like even Home Depot, where you can get, the classic white subway tile for, a quarter a piece, little white hex tile for shower pans and bathroom floors, and really can do these bathrooms really inexpensively and have them look really up to date and really, in keeping with the, innate style of the architecture.
A lot of people think they're great at designing or decorating, and they're not. I being one that admitted very early on, I really had to hand that over to somebody else, right?
Oh, come on, Jeff.
So Brendan, as truth be having it, has helped us with our own house, and it's made it this summer really comfortable to be in. It's a beach kind of quality that you've added to the house, which I think really fits the area and our lifestyle. When you're working with clients, you get a feel for who's in charge, or do you, how do you work with your clients, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I try to read them, I try to read them as best I can. It's not, usually you can tell pretty quickly. A lot of times people have, when they meet me, they have pictures, and, there's that website, Pinterest.
Yes.
Where a lot of people are looking at that these days. And it's funny, they oftentimes will tell me, oh my God, I'm all over the place, and my pictures, I'm sure, make no sense. And you really can see very quickly, even with, a complete random assortment of pictures, you can kind of hone in on some certain things that appeal to them.
Right.
It really makes it easy to kind of, get them on the right path and get them going in the right direction.
Yeah, I like the idea that you're looking at pictures, and Pinterest is certainly the place to do that. I know that.
Yeah, Pinterest is great.
Yeah, it really is. You can get a lot of ideas very quickly, and posting and using that particular website. I haven't been able to incorporate it yet into what I do, but I know that a lot of people have and really enjoy the process of doing that.
Yeah, no, it's really helpful, and it's the type of visuals that really help designers, because then they're just not pulling it out of thin air. They can really see it. You're looking at even though all these things may be different, blue might be the common denominator, or
right.
Black framed windows, or it's just something you can kind of glean pretty easily what they're responding to.
Now, in my own case, it took us a long time to get to this particular place where the house is, which I happen to really like. When you're dealing with clients, and when you're dealing with, certain ideas of your own that are going to work, and you want the client to be able to use your particular expertise in knowing that, but they don't want to do it. And I think we're a prime example of people that took a while to get to where we are. How do you deal with that?
Well, I think you just got to kind of stick with it, and kind of drive home your point there. They're hiring you for your professional expertise. But on the other hand, you also need to be respectful of what they're thinking and what they're feeling and what they're looking for. And, it's usually a pretty copacetic amalgamation of all of those things. I've been really fortunate with, the clients I've had, present company excluded. But I've really been fortunate with the clients I've had that, I don't know what it is, but maybe it's something to do with my personality. I don't come across real, hardcore and threatening to people. I listen to what they say, but then again, I also do know what I know, and I'm certainly happy and capable to bring that to the table.
Yeah, it's excellent. Color schemes, textures. What's something you might be able to share that could be, I guess, more used today than, let's say, last year? Are there trends in that particular either colors or textures?
I still see. There sort of seems to be kind of a return to some kind of like moodier kind of colors and stuff.
Okay.
But I still think light and bright. Lots of white, subtle color. I love, the kind of trend in kind of grayish wood floors instead of, really dark floors and stuff.
Right.
Just to kind of keep things just really light and fresh, I think is something that you never would get tired of,
Yeah,
obviously. Always keeps the place looking good and inviting.
Yeah, could you shout out your phone number and a way people might be able to get a hold of you, especially if they're looking for that kind of help?
Yeah, for sure. My number is area code 310-309-6666. 7177.
And basically, looking at, I guess, the way the market is, if you are a seller and you're looking to obviously sell your house, the light and bright idea is probably the best way to go as well, right?
Definitely. And, just keep it simple. Don't try to, I think a lot of times people, even in a house that's been sort of spiffed up to be resold, I think, people are going to come along and put their own stamp on it anyhow.
Right.
So just don't put your stamp on it. Just keep it really clean and simple. And, I think you'll have much more success and get a much better number for it.
Great practical advice. Brendan McBreen with us on the show. Brendan, thanks for coming on once again, giving us an update on what's happening in the design world. Thanks very much.
Okay, Jeff, and I got some rug samples for you later on today.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you very much. And I'm Jeff Barton, your
Jeff.
voice.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, in the mortgage industry, we'll be right back.
You're listening to The Mortgage Voice with Jeff Barton. We'll be right back with more in just a moment. For more information on today's topic, email Jeff Barton at info@malibufunding.net. Now, back to The Mortgage Voice with your host, Jeff Barton.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry. 888-713-2929. That's our telephone number. Pick up the phone, give us a call. We do on this show help people with problems. That's kind of what we try to do each and every week. Entertain, secondary, but certainly help you with things you may not consider, things that you see as potential problems, or if you want to just ask a question, we can definitely help you avoid some problems. Interest rates are great. The housing prices have not increased dramatically this last 2 or 3 months. First part of the year was kind of slow in the real estate world, and in the mortgage world, it was really slow. I had a question today from a state auditor. Now, Malibu Funding, the company I work for and I'm the president of, they called me and wanted to know certain things about our company, right? And they ask and ask and ask and ask. And all of these state auditors or examiners have the attitude that, this is what you have to do, and so get it done right now. So they called me, they asked me a question about why in the first 3 months of the year did your company not make as much money as it did the year before? And it's one of those questions where you're like, well, we didn't do as much, it's one of those third grade answers that you just want to give them, which you can't because they have your life in their hands. So we told them, well, the market conditions were down, the weather was bad, anything that you can think of in order to really explain why that is. Well, the economy picked up, business picked up, problem solved. But if you're looking right now at what's happening to the overall economy and why interest rates have gone down and why, the economy is not looking as well. I looked at an article, again, by Jan Swanson over at the Mortgage News Daily, talked about Freddie Mac's forecast for June, July, and August, talked about some dark times ahead, meaning that we're looking at some problems, not solely based on the trade issue with China or some of the political troubles of the Trump administration, or the fact that here in California, we have an issue with immigration. I saw an article. Did you see this article today about the ICE immigrations and whatever that ICE is, deporting millions of Americans? Did you see this?
Yesterday, Trump tweeted that the immigration and ICE was going to step up and start to evacuate all the illegal immigrants from this country, and there was going to be just a bolster up of the activity. And I guess this was news to the agency itself.
Oh, I see. So
yeah, they didn't know anything about it.
A typical, I see. And I misspoke. I said Americans. No, these were people here without documentation, obviously, to certain groups of people, they're illegal, and to others, they just don't have the documentation and they're waiting. Not a great idea, and really scares the heck out of a lot of people who depend upon this labor force to do the jobs that nobody else will do.
That's part of it, yeah. Again, breaking up more families and
yeah. Right. So in all of this, whether you stand on one side or the other, this is causing some issues with the economy, a lot of this stuff. But we are at the end of a long cycle. Usually these cycles last 8 to 10 years in terms of between recessions or between real estate ups and downs. Well, we're 2010 was when the recovery started. We're almost 11 years in. We'll be 10 years at the end of this year. And so if you're thinking about it in historical perspective, this is not an unusual occurrence, and certainly not to blame on one administration versus the other. But I think stability is always a thing that we like. And I think most people who have their money invested somewhere are a little nervous right now. For instance, what would you say to people who would take money out of the stock market and put it into a bond or something more secure? Maybe pays less, but it's more secure.
Well, anything that's government-backed, obviously, would be more secure these days, you know, rather than, would you put it in a defense company? Would you put it in Boeing at this point?
No, I don't think Boeing, and as you hear, Boeing's renaming the plane. They took it, they're going to obviously
rebrand it. They need to bring in the Jack-in-the-Box people.
I mean, really, the crashes are us. I don't know if I'd ever get on that plane, ever. I don't care whether they fixed it or not. Would you get on that plane?
No.
No, not at all. I wouldn't either. So out there, and you're thinking about real estate, you definitely got to think about your pocketbook, where your income is coming. Look, if you got a long-term steady job, if you're in high tech, if you're in a number of these industries which are really recession-proof as well as future-proof, and there, as I said, AI is coming, if it's not already here in your particular industry. We talked earlier about the supermarket, about Safe Light Auto, about the rent-a-car place. They're all going to disappear, these jobs. So if you don't have one of those jobs and you're reliant pretty much on the tech industry or the medical field, you should be in good shape. I know myself, I'm looking to enhance my own particular education in that area and go to EMT school. Why? Why not? I need to know in case there's another disaster what to do.
You're going to do that?
I am going to do that.
How cool.
I think it's very cool. There's a great school locally. It's not that expensive, and it's it's couple nights a week. That's all for like 6-8 months.
David Lee Roth did that?
He did?
Bobby Sherman did that?
Well, I think it's a great idea. I mean, look, if we run into a situation where a fire, an earthquake, a flood, and all of these things hit Southern California, how are you prepared? What are you going to do about it? Me, I've decided to get a little bit more education, to have some certification so that people can recognize me with authority when I'm talking about what I'm talking about.
I applaud you.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. And by the way, being the age I'm at, it's just a good idea, I think, to have something else, to be able to give back, to be able to help other people. I'm not looking to go in to drive an ambulance around, but certainly helping in the programs that I've already gotten certifications in, CERT being one of them, is a pretty good idea.
Go on tour with the Rolling Stones?
Go on tour with no. Hey, they need a lot of geriatric help. By the way, they're a lot older than us. They're drifting into their 80s now. A couple of them. Isn't Keith Richards like 77?
He's late 70s.
Yeah, exactly right. But all these old rockers. I mean,
why did Kiss decide to quit touring? Well, both Gene and Paul have heart problems.
Yeah, exactly right.
They're not exactly sitting still on stage.
No. Yeah. None of those groups are.
Paul Stanley once said, if you go to a concert and a man in a pair of torn jeans sits on a stool and plays the guitar, you got ripped off.
Exactly, because it is me, but it isn't me. You know what I mean? I mean, unless you see the makeup and the hair and the jumping around, it ain't Kiss. That's very, very funny. We were going to have on the show Jenny Kenyon, and Jenny Kenyon is a director of endurance sports and track at the Mamba Sports Academy out in Thousand Oaks, California, Mamba being Kobe Bryant's place. The reason I wanted her on, because it is summertime, and one of the things about Southern California that I love all year round is the ability to get outside and do something, i.e. take a walk, have a picnic, go for a run, go for a swim, a bike ride, horseback riding. There's just so many activities that you do here that you take for granted. And one of the things to be able to enhance that is just to be careful, and obviously to know what you're doing when you're outside. I know that most people who hike up into the mountains are very, very well aware of the dangers up there. And so Snakes, absolutely. I had a friend who was mountain biking. Oh, this has got to be 15 years ago. And a deer jumped over his bike and clipped his helmet, knocked him off his bike. But, I mean,
he's lucky to be alive.
Lucky to be alive. And we're hearing about that mountain lion, or several of them, that have been all over the Santa Monica Mountains, and certainly out to Los Angeles and Angeles Crest and a bunch of these other places. Wilderness and being out in the wild is terrific, but you got to really be careful.
Well, once they started tagging them, they figured some of them were crossing the freeway.
And how are they doing that?
No idea.
Well, that came that great idea to build a bridge for them, right? You saw the renderings.
An underpass, overpass.
Something to let the animals...
Lions this way. They can read the signs, can't they?
Come on, can't they?
Can't they?
I can read the signs, but I love Southern California for that reason. I know that there are people who think that we all out in California land, and this is, of course, coming from anybody who doesn't live here, are all a little fruity and a little, I guess... lolly-dotty and just, don't have our feet on the ground. One of the reasons is because we just love the ocean. We love to get outside and run and hike and do all the things. It's just the best part of living here, my opinion.
And the Lion bypass would add to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there'd be a bunch of people out there trying to, commiserate with Bambi and shake hands with Tony the Tiger and all these things. It's just the way of it is here in Southern California. I happen to love it. I love the Dodgers. I like getting out and seeing the Angels. I like a lot of things that are, LAFC or the Cosmos or anything else that speaks of Southern California. I hope you have a great day, great summer weekend. I'm Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The Mortgage Voice with Jeff Barton. We'll be right back with more in just a moment. For more information on today's topic, email Jeff Barton at info@malibufunding.net. Now, back to The Mortgage Voice with your host, Jeff Barton.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jeff Barton, your voice in the mortgage industry. 888-713-2929, our telephone number. Pick up the phone, give us a call. If you would like to email us, if you're by your computer right now, have a question on a mortgage or on a real estate deal, you can email me, info@malibufunding.net. We certainly have a presence online. We're everywhere. Go to YouTube, look up my name, Jeff Barton, and you'll find me. There's about 150 shows. Certainly this one will be on at the end of the week. And you can also go to our website, www.malibufunding.net. Now, if you go to Malibu Funding, and the reason I'm sending you, that's the company I work for. They sponsor the show, NMLS number 79620, for those who wish to look that company up online and see where they are. I have a Twitter handle at Jeff6493, and certainly the Mortgage Voice website, which has several of these particular shows on that site as well. We were talking briefly about the economy, what's happening, things that you need to pay attention to, and why this is a good time to get out there and buy. Upshot of it is rates. What are the rates today, right? Because that's really the bottom line to all the intrigue going on in the economy, and really why a lot of investors are pulling out of the stock market and placing their money into treasuries. When they do that, the yield on treasuries goes down, which also means that the mortgage rate goes down. Why? Because treasuries, the 10-year note is why we, most of the treasuries in the 10-year note, that's where we borrow the money from in order to lend it out from you. At least that's what the formula is. So if those particular yields go down, i.e. you buy a note, you want to get a 3% return on that note. If it goes down to 2.5%, that means that the mortgage rates are also going down. So if you're watching this sort of stuff, that's what's happening right now. And it's all because the economy, they say, is in trouble. And we're looking towards whether the Fed is going to lower the short-term interest rate, which would affect your car note, your credit cards, and a number of other short-term debt on your particular plate, whether it's you or a cousin or a relative or a friend. Somebody has high-paying credit cards, and so if that affects your payments, that's a good thing, especially if they go down. Okay, the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. Now, 3.875, this is an average of what goes on in the U.S. This is gotten through Mortgage News Daily. You can go to that site yourself and check what I'm saying to you. You will see that this changes daily, but today, 3.875%, that's a smoking rate. That goes back, I'm not kidding you, we were up at 4.5%, maybe even 4.625%, heading to 5% in as little as 6 months ago. In January, November, December, January, this is where we were headed. It is 6 months later, and we are reversing course. And as I said, the Fed may lower rate, at least now, or perhaps in July or August. FHA VA loans 3.5% to 3.75%. The 15-year fixed loan is 3.75%, and of course the 5-year ARM at 3.625%. All of these loans are smoking loans. And what does that mean for you? It means that you, based on your income today, should be able to borrow more money, which means that that house that you've been looking at that you want to buy is still available. You probably can place a better offer onto it, either more money down or a higher monthly payment that you can pay, which means you can offer more. All of these things mean that you might be able to get into that house, and that house that you've been looking at and want to get into and are sick of paying rent, you really should take advantage of that. And these are good times for borrowers. We are probably going to see a huge influx of refinances. Why? Because as I just mentioned, a year ago, you were paying over 4.25% for your 30-year fixed loans. Now, if you're a perfect borrower, you have perfect credit over 700 and you had 20% down, you probably gained some equity over the year. And if you lower your payment, and by lowering your payment, what I'm saying is lowering your rate, and if you go from 4.5% to 3.75%, that is a big drop in your monthly payment, and you should take advantage of it. Call me. Call the person who did your loan. Go down to the local bank where you have your bank account, right? Your savings account, your checking account. Maybe you have a car loan with that bank. Maybe the bank that you're banking with actually has your loan. All of these things, if they're true, go in there and say, I want a rate and term refinance. What does that mean? That means you only want to lower your rate and look at the term. Now, if you're only a year into the loan, you really haven't paid that much interest, although in an amortized loan, as everybody knows, the first 10 years are mostly interest. But you want to ask the person who's doing your refi, especially if it's in a year, 18 months, 2 years, how long before I break even based on the savings, based on how much I've already spent on the loan. So the savings is one number, the amount of interest you've already paid is another number, and you divide the savings per month into the amount of money you've already spent, and you'll get your monthly right there. So these are very important for you to understand, because right now you're going to have an opportunity to do that too. So one of the bad things about bad economies, and one of the good things, one of the bad things about bad economies is that you're obviously worried about your job. Now, what kind of industry are you in? We talked earlier in the show about GM, and we talked about the local supermarket and Safelite and the rental car company. These places whereby people are getting eliminated. You have to use an app or you can't use the product. That's what's happening in order to increase the bottom line of all these companies and eliminate human error. They want to move liability off onto something else, someone else. They're sick of paying taxes. They don't want to pay employees anymore. An app, yeah, it can make mistakes, but it's very difficult to have an app come back and sue you. It's just not going to happen. And to be able to adjudicate if an app makes a mistake on a particular transaction you're doing, it's very hard to assign blame other than, okay, let's change it, fix it, and do what we can. And by the way, customer service, that's going away too. Robocalls, you've heard a gazillion of them. I heard that there's 60 billion robocalls made every week. Imagine that. There's only how many people in the country? Thinking about that, you probably receive 5 or 6 robocalls a week, and it isn't even election season. Well, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about computerized systems taking over what used to be a human job. That doesn't cost anybody anything. It's a program, what they call an algorithm. What's an algorithm? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's just a rapid cessation of numbers, randomly accessed numbers.
Okay, so when somebody talks about, okay, there's an algorithm for that, they're really talking about a program?
They're talking about something that succinctly picks a variety of numbers based on the probability of getting better results.
I see, and this is all a math formula worked out by the bean counters.
It's software, yeah.
Okay, very good. And so these are the things controlling our life right now.
It's either that or just random, which obviously Bill Gates says random is no good.
Random is no good?
Yeah, random is bad.
What's entropy?
I don't know.
Entropy is
death.
that yes,
Yes.
that everything breaks down eventually.
Yeah.
That's entropy.
And infant mortality says it's going to break down in the beginning if it's going to break down at all.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Very good. Thank you very much. And for those lessons, it's free of charge. Anybody out there? So we've talked rates and we looked at it. Okay. So the economy, jobs, and things that are happening in the future are of great concern not only to you but to us. We want to make sure that we're looking at rates and looking at the future of your job that they match, i.e., I can pay that rate for let's say 25 years. The upside for the economy that's down, we talked about the downside. The upside is that the mortgage business will do great. Why? Because everybody refis when, in fact, rates go down. Anyway, I'm Jeff Barton. I'm your voice in the mortgage industry. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
You're listening to The Mortgage Voice with Jeff Barton. For more on today's topic, visit www.malibufunding.net.